Right now, at 6, federal judges grill lawyers over the president's power to deploy troops to Portland.
I'm very sensitive to the slippery slope argument that's being made here.
Then, House Secretary Kristi Noem is doubling down, with local leaders apparently reticent to give an inch.
This is not some battleground that we have here.
Plus, how volunteers in Vancouver are bringing a little Halloween magic to kids in foster care.
We really depend on every set of hands that we can get.
And later, the Kraken take the ice on KGW. And College game day lands in Eugene with the undefeated Ducks ready to soar. First at 6, we're following new and significant developments, the ongoing legal battles over the National Guard, with tensions now rising between federal and local leaders. Thanks for joining us. I'm David Mulco.
And I'm Christine Padawanich. Let's get you caught up. Today, the Ninth Circuit heard arguments over whether 200 Oregon National Guard troops can be deployed to Portland. Judges have not yet made a decision. Until they do, those troops will remain in limbo, active but not deployed.
Meanwhile, a federal judge in Chicago granted a temporary restraining order blocking the deployment of National Guard troops in Illinois for 2 weeks, though those troops are already on the ground. The judge calling Homeland Security's narrative of what's happening, quote, simply unreliable.
And Secretary Kristi Noem reaffirmed her position today about sending troops to both cities during a cabinet meeting at the White House, threatening to expand ICE operations and the federal presence if local officials refuse to cooperate.
If we have to do it the hard way in Portland and Chicago, we will.
There you go. Once again, we have live team coverage, including how local and state leaders also seem unwilling to find any sort of compromise. But first to Kyle Aboshi as we await that critical ruling from the Ninth Circuit. Kyle?
Well, based on their questions, at least 2 judges appeared to side with the Trump administration. They pounced on Oregon's attorney and questioned a district court judge's decision to temporarily block the deployment of the Oregon National Guard. Just minutes into a hearing before the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, one of the judges jumped in with a question. The 3-judge panel would go on to challenge the lawyers for nearly an hour as the appellate court considered whether to overturn a lower court order temporarily blocking the deployment of the Oregon National Guard in Portland.
Ninth Circuit is known to be a bit of a hot bench when it comes to very important or of-the-moment questions.
The state of Oregon argued the president exceeded his authority and claimed local police could handle the protests outside the ICE facility in South Portland.
Where the president's determinations are untethered from reality, they cannot represent a colorable assessment of the facts within a range of honest judgment.
But the 2 Trump-appointed judges pushed back, questioning U.S. District Court Judge Karen Immergut's temporary restraining order blocking federalized troops.
I'm sort of trying to figure out how a district court of any nature is supposed to get in and question whether the president's assessment of executing the laws is right or wrong. 2 of the 3 judges appeared to side with the federal government, suggesting the president knows more about what's going on inside the ICE building than what's seen outside.
At some point, the president is entitled, when his subordinates are telling him, we are overstretched, this is unsustainable, the officers aren't available to do their jobs, they're not available to surge to other places where we face violence. The president is entitled to say enough is enough and bring in the National Guard to reinforce the regular forces.
For several months, a small group of demonstrators has gathered in front of the ICE facility in South Portland, leading to occasional clashes with federal agents protecting the building. This high-stakes legal battle is just the latest test of President Trump's authority to use military force to respond to protests. No word on when we might get that ruling. It could come really at any moment. If the temporary restraining order is upheld, the National Guard cannot be deployed. If it's rejected, troops could be deployed immediately.
Yeah, many Portlanders waiting to see what those judges decide. Thank you, Kyle. Let's get to Blair Best now, who's live outside the ICE building after Secretary Noem once again mentioned Portland during a White House cabinet meeting.
And Blair, the secretary essentially doubling down here.
That's right. Today, Secretary Noem threatened again to send more federal agents to Portland if the city doesn't meet her demands on public safety and security. Now, I want to show you what's happening right now at the ICE building, but before I do, I want to preface that it has been peaceful since we got here around 4 this evening, and it was peaceful when we arrived earlier today to talk with people. But despite that, take a look. About 45 minutes ago, these federal agents walked out onto the roof. They're masked. Some are holding orange guns filled with pepper balls. Again, it is unclear what provoked them to come out, seeing as it has been relatively peaceful all day. Also today, Portland officials continue to push back against the Trump administration's continued negative rhetoric about what's going on here. Thursday morning, the roads are back open outside the ICE building in South Portland.
I've been here almost close to 100 days myself.
This is not some battleground that we have here. There's nothing on fire.
As a handful of protesters gather with handmade signs.
It says, "We the people are ashamed of ICE." We are. Our whole nation is embarrassed right now.
During a Thursday morning cabinet meeting in D.C.,
it's like anarchist.
It is, it really is.
The Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, brought up Portland after her surprise visit to the Rose City Tuesday.
Met with the governor, met with the mayor, met with the chief of police and the superintendent of the highway patrol. They are all lying and disingenuous and dishonest people, because as soon as you leave the room, then they make the exact opposite response. So we're looking at new facilities to purchase. They're in Portland too, and we're going to double down. And I told them if they didn't meet our demands for safety and security on the streets and work with us, then we were going to bring in more federal law enforcement.
A spokesperson for Portland Mayor Keith Wilson tells KGW they have received no indication the federal government intends to buy property in Portland, adding, "The federal government's actions in Portland are deeply disturbing. They undermine local authority, erode public trust, and escalate tensions rather than resolve them." Governor Tina Kotek added, "It is clear from Secretary Noem's continued false narrative about what's happening in Portland that the Trump administration has no interest in the facts, no interest in public safety, and that we cannot take them at their word."
It's usually at the nighttime is usually when it gets hectic.
During Wednesday night's protest near the ICE building, Portland police arrested 3 people for harassment and booked them in the Multnomah County Jail. And just before 11 p.m., police arrested another person caught shining a laser at a PPB airplane flying near the ICE building. Since early June, Portland police have arrested 45 people connected to the ICE protests.
Just a lot of agitation from both the right-wingers, mostly the right-wingers.
We talked to some of those counter-protesters Monday.
We're out here recording and supporting ICE and showing our love for this country. And they call us agitators when that's all they do is agitate and attack.
We are directly across from the ICE building.
Margaret Salazar, CEO of Reach Community Development, a nonprofit running this affordable housing complex where more than 200 people live.
Really the prominent thing that we're hearing about is the tear gas that is actually encroaching into residential units and making it difficult for folks to breathe.
The Portland Housing Bureau now giving Reach $55,000 to go towards buying these air cleaners. The city also sent a crew Thursday to clean the sidewalks.
What we're seeing is that there's debris from the pepper balls and from tear gas canisters that is basically littered here by federal agents, and the federal agents are not cleaning up their toxic trash. It hurts our heart to the core to know that residents are experiencing this.
Okay, so those running that apartment building tell me that the use of force by federal agents against the protesters has increased in recent weeks to the point where pepper spray and mace is being used almost nightly. Now that is a concern that the mayor and the governor brought up to Secretary Noem this week. And the mayor's office tells me today they have not heard if those tactics will change. Back to you.
Yeah, still with the rhetoric we've heard at the top level on all sides here, it's hard to see if there is room for any kind of compromise. Blair, appreciate your reporting.
And also be sure to stay with KGW here on air, on our website, or our free TV app, KGW Plus, for continuing coverage of developments at the ICE facility and as the legal case around deploying National Guard troops to Portland plays out.
In your headlines this evening, Vancouver's Discovery Middle School was briefly put in what is called secure mode this morning. School officials say a student reportedly threatened staff and may have had a knife that prompted police and district officers to respond. The student was on a bus near the school, and officers quickly separated them from other students. Authorities say no weapons were found.
Oregon State Representative Hua Win died this morning after a battle with cancer. First elected in 2022 and re-elected last year, she represented parts of East Portland and Damascus. A former teacher and school board member, Win championed education equity and child care access in Salem. In a statement, Oregon House Speaker Julie Fahey said Win was a fierce advocate and, quote, her legacy will live on in this chamber and in every classroom she fought so hard to support. Senate Republicans echoed that sentiment, saying, quote, her kindness and commitment to making a difference will be remembered by everyone who had the privilege of working with her. Win was just 41 years old.
Just 41. And starting on Monday, the Broadway Bridge will be closed to all vehicles for the next 6 months. That is so crews can replace the decking, which was installed almost 2 decades ago. The streetcar will also be rerouted, though the south sidewalk will remain open for pedestrians and cyclists. The closure will last until April. Celine?
David, you know, those sprinkles we talked about an hour ago have started to come to the Portland area. Not here at the station, but other areas in the city have been seeing a little bit of rainfall. 62 degrees is where we're at right now. Those wind speeds at 6 miles per hour. Again, not raining here at home, but other areas across the city. Again, you may see some of those sprinkles as we begin on this rainy few days that we're looking at. But right now, looking at our radar, you'll see over the last 2 hours or so, we were seeing the rain activity down near the Salem area, some thunderstorms down there as well. That were even coming up near the McMinnville area. Now at the 6 o'clock hour, it looks like, again, we've seen some sprinkles in the Portland area. Sandy was also seeing some rainfall, and it looks like those thunderstorms even heading up past Hillsborough. So we're going to see a lot of this in the days to come, but taking a moment to look at our temperatures, 62 here at home, 62 in Troutdale, lots of low 60s at the moment. Other areas along the coast seeing mid 50s in places like Newport. But here's where we're going. As we get into the rest of our evening, it looks like this is going to push a little bit to the west, at least for right now. But as we get into early Friday morning, that's when the rain returns. We're still seeing the heavier rainfall down south, even past Salem. This continues through Friday, a little bit of a break around noon, but then as we get into our Saturday, we're going to see more widespread rainfall. And again, we're looking at quite a rainy few days. We'll talk much more about how much rain to expect and how long this will all last coming up a little bit later.
Appreciate the heads up on the changes. Thanks, Celine.